Hi guys, I'm Jen and I'm bringing you today's one-on-one. One of my great inspirations of faith is Abraham. Here's a dude whose faith is still mentioned today. And in fact, one of my favorite Abraham stories is when God asks him to do the unthinkable from a human perspective. In light of faith, it teaches me so much. It's an example, it's an amazing story about what faith is and what it does. Here's the passage. By faith, Abraham, when he was tested, offered up Isaac, and he who had received the promises was in the act of offering up his only son, of whom it was said, through Isaac shall your offspring be named. He considered that God was able to even raise him from the dead, from which, figuratively speaking, he did receive him back. God had promised Abraham that his descendants, his kids, would outnumber the stars and sand, and that through his family line, everyone everywhere would be blessed. But here was Abe, Sarah, no kids, not young anymore, seemingly near the end of their time on earth, no clue about how that promise would be fulfilled and how that promise would be passed down. So, by the way, I love how God works. Where we don't stand a chance is where he does the most amazing things, and he fulfills those promises that he makes. So they were waiting, still no kid, decades, no son, Sarah's beyond childbearing age, and then boom, a kid. And God shows up, kept his promise like he always does. Why do we even panic? When there's no hope, God of hope shows up. He delivers on his word. He kept his covenant, his promise with Abraham. So the blessing would come through his family into this sin-stained world. Just when we think it was the end of the story, here he is with the second part of the story with Isaac. So God comes to Abraham and says, sacrifice Isaac. Made no sense. Everything was riding on this kid. If he was dead, it'd all be over. End of story. If he died, nothing that had occurred would have made any sense. Can't you just hear Abe talking to God? God, I'll do anything, just not this. You made this promise. This boy is the promise. I don't get it. That's often my prayer. God, I don't get it. We're not privy to the conversations Abraham had with God that day, and we don't really know what was going on in Abraham's mind, but I know what happens in my mind. Whew. But there's little hint of any angst or anger in Abraham. He simply and immediately began to prepare to do what God wanted him to do. And we do know that grace had transformed this guy's heart. This man, or he simply would have not had the reaction that he did. Abraham didn't know why God was asking him to do the unthinkable, and it's clear he didn't know what God was going to do. Abraham reasoned, well, he'll resurrect him, kind of like nonchalant almost. But that wasn't God's plan. It was a reasonable response, right? But God does this thing again to show us the more incredible option. This is where the passage exposes faith at its core. Abraham wasn't relying on what he could see or understand. He knew how God would work. He knew God would do something only God could do. Abraham was at rest because he knew God's character, his words, his faithfulness, his power. He knew God. Faith believes that God really does exist and that he rewards those who earnestly seek him. Faith is not natural for us. So not natural. It's a gift of God's grace to us. So I encourage you, I exhort you, seek his grace again today. And then I also challenge you to go ahead and read what happens in Genesis around chapter 22. All right, guys, have a great day. Be encouraged. God bless you.